Good morning, colleagues. Welcome to the mediation for the instructional page, the workbook page for the learners, as well as the read and dice page. This information is applicable to all grades, grades 7, 8 and 9. However, for the purpose of this video, I focused on the grade 9 documents, but all of them except for the topics looks exactly the same and should be utilized in the same way. In the Google Drive folder that will be available to you with all the documentation inside it, you will find the instructional page. It's available in Afrikaans and in English. It gives instructions on how to run this project. It's a brief reminder of the project that consists of 3 stages, which I'm not going to read to you because we've done it already. And then information on how to run this project. Please keep in mind that this will be different this year because we are in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. You will change this. The document is available in Word format, so you will be able to change this to align it to how you choose to manage the project within your school. So the instructions here is meant for a normal situation. It says it's an individual skills-based assessment. It still is. It says each learner will be given a genre, or they can pick it themselves, or class can be divided in 2 groups, 3 groups, 6 groups, 7 groups. Each group will receive a genre. Decide how you want to manage it. If you were able to teach poetry, folk tales and novels very well, you will concentrate on those dramas. If you were able to teach poetry, folk tales and dramas very well, you will concentrate on those genres. Please don't forget about the songs because our learners really do love their songs. This is the way, once again, the project was meant to be conducted. The learners would then have taken a dice, roll it on the table. The number on which it landed will allocate the topic to the learners. If you do it differently this year, please remove this then. You can then maybe add, learners will be given or allocated a topic for their research. The genre will then be combined with the topic, and this will give the learner the research topic to be done. This may differ depending on how you are going to manage it within your specific situation. Keep in mind, topics can be swapped around. If a learner really do not feel at ease with a certain topic, you may give him another topic. Each learner must have a portfolio file. Later on in this video, I will share the workbook with you, or the exemplar workbook with you. You may change it. You may alter it to fit your needs. Once again, this is a skills-based project. During each stage of the project, learners must master different skills to achieve the outcomes set out in the assessments, and those you will find in the rubrics later on in this document as well. The project may not go home. Certain areas, for example, research material can be collected and brought back to school, but the actual research process must be done in class, and the teacher must assist, support and facilitate here. No discrimination will be allowed between learners that uses computers or do it with pen and paper. Please, when you mark the assessment, do not be beguiled by how beautiful it looks since it's been done online using all the wonderful creative tools. Look at the content, whether the research topic has been addressed and the questions have been answered. The duration of the project will allow for the research part, the writing and the orals to be done in class. It actually is covering the ATP while you are doing the research assessment. Please do not have the learners come in after school to do the project while you continue with ATP teaching. The project is part and parcel of the covering the ATP, since research, listening and speaking will be taking place, writing and presenting will be taking place, and orals will be taking place. So while you are doing this research project, during 6 weeks, you will be automatically be covering the ATP. I'm not going to read through this with you. You have to teach and to help the learners to do the research, help them to find information, to design and create and develop his own work based on the information that he was able to find during the research part. Please go and have a look at the literacy skills PowerPoint presentation that's also in the Google folder. It will assist you in guiding the learners with regard to the research. In stage 2, that will take place in weeks 3 and 4. The writing project will be happening during this stage. They will plan, they will draft, they will proofread, they will edit and prepare for presenting already. Stage 3 is the oral component, and every learner will have the opportunity to present his research project to the class. That will be the oral component. You may start in this, you have to start with this presentations during term 3, but the actual mark for the oral stage 3 in this research project will be only recorded in term 4 for promotional purposes. You have to assist the learners here. You have to teach them, for example, how to make PowerPoints, irrespective of which grade they are doing, irrespective of whether this is part of their research project or not. Okay, here is a bit of instructions on how to conduct the research. The first bullet point there is very important. The research aspect of this project is very important. The success of the project and the oral presentation at the end will depend on the quality of research that the learners do. They can type the information, they can write it, they can paste information onto a mind map. Every learner, as part of the research, will have to make a mind map, and on that mind map they will be summarizing all the content that they were able to find during the research process. You as a teacher must facilitate this process, and you have to show the learners how to use search engines like Google and Wikipedia, how to search for content, how to type in a question, how to work through the results, how to find relevant material, to copy and save it, and then how to put together a bibliography. Very important that you look at this part of the research. You are going to be actively involved and manage and facilitate this. When doing research, keep in mind that the topics given can be broad. You can narrow it down, but even if the whole class does the same genre and the same topic, the end product should be different. Each project should have the learner's personal touch in it. When you are facilitating the research, help your learners to stick to the facts, to really question regularly whether they are still answering the research question, whether the information they are working with are truly relevant or not. The sources that we would like them to use, help them to search for those sources, to download, to save, to collect. You as a teacher must also make sure that you have relevant sources available as hard copies in the class to assist those learners without access to internet facilities or learners without data. Sources, learners must be guided to document and report which sources they used. So have examples of bibliographies in your classroom and remind them constantly to write the bibliography and write down the sources that they are using. What we expect them is to use, we expect them to use at least 3 sources. And it's important to remember that Google, Wikipedia, and Pinterest do not count. They are search engines. The complete links and web page addresses should be written down as bibliographies. Use mind mapping techniques as part of the research, and I cannot stress this enough. This is part and parcel of the research rubrics as well. We are going to give them marks for this. Mind mapping is extremely important because it will help them to see the bigger picture in the end. It will help them to determine what is relevant, what can be used, what can be left out. It will help them to organize the information and at the end synthesize their facts and the final layout of the project. So each learner, irrespective of which topic he has, will have a mind map as part of his research. Please remind them to stick to the topics they were given, to collect and save all the relevant information. If the learners make use of visuals in their research, in the oral presentation, it's important to show them how to collect visuals, how to save them, how to scan them, how to paste them into the booklet then. There should also be a space for visual material in the learner portfolios. Remind your learners that visual images must be relevant, age and grade appropriate, clear, big enough to see, and it must strengthen the research that he or she was able to do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as for the writing part of the research project, this is also known to you by this stage. Can be typed, written. If it's typed, it must be Arial 12. The spacing's 1.5, and all the writing processes must be followed. So, in the research part, there will be a mind map in which the information is summarized and organized, and then from there, when they start with the planning of the writing part, there also should be a mind map, a planning part, a rough draft, a proofread, editing, and a final piece then. This is new to you, and I strongly advise the use of checklists. This checklist on your screen is meant for the writing part only. You are more than welcome, and once again I advise it, to design a checklist for the research part as well. A checklist enables the child to check and see, am I on track? Am I still within the time frame allocated for this part? What do I still need to do? What still needs work? What is completed? And then a checklist should contain the requirements as well. And there the child can assess for himself whether he meets the requirements or not. This is a basic checklist for writing. It includes the planning process, the writing, the visuals, and then the final presentation. You may alter this. Remember these documents are in Word. Change it, alter it and to make it more user-friendly. As far as the planning process is concerned, here you can see the first requirement that the learner can tick off. Planning has been completed. I've done a complete layout, and I even indicated where my picture should be placed. You can mark off yes. Writing processes, I did a mind map, a rough draft, proofreading, editing, and a final work. I, for example, would split this. I will have one requirement for mind mapping, rough draft, proofreading, editing, and final work. You can manage it the way you see fit. So alter this, change this to fit your needs and challenges. As far as the writing specifically is concerned, the learner can determine for himself whether he used the correct voice, whether he is focused in his research, whether he adhered to the chosen topic and genre? Did he really answer the research question or not? Is there evidence of proofreading and editing? With regard to visuals, the learner can determine for himself whether those visuals are age appropriate, relevant, clear, and big enough. For the final presentation, the learner can tick off whether he meets these requirements. And the last point on this page is also very important. If the learner does a PowerPoint, he has to practice it beforehand. He has to practice and see whether he can manage the technology, whether it will work in class. He has to practice presenting the PowerPoint, because a PowerPoint should not be read. You should speak to it. That's a skill that needs to be practiced. Once again, please make sure that your learners have checklists. You can even have a checklist for the grammar part specifically, the language part of the writing part. Here you can see some requirements and instructions given for the oral preparation. I'm not going to read it for you. And then as far as the assessments are concerned, here are the final rubrics. Once again, as previously mediated, you may alter this. I strongly, however, advise against this. The rubrics as they are has been designed by a provincial team of facilitators. I think they really did an excellent job, and I think it covers all the aspects. If you have any contributions or ideas to improve this, please contact me and we can look at it and share it with our other colleagues. I strongly advise you to use the rubrics as they are. In the rubrics, you will see the criteria and you will see the descriptors, and this is very user-friendly. The research part of the project has 3 criteria. The first 2 can be assessed while the learner is busy with the research project. The last one can actually only be assessed on completion of the project. So be prepared for that. First 2 criteria can be assessed throughout the process. The last one actually only at the end of the process. The first criteria speaks to the variety, the number, and the quality of resources used. And if you look at this and make 100% sure that you understand the descriptors, the learner is unable to relate resources used to the final product, but the product is still produced. So the learner produced a product, but the resources does not relate to the product that he has produced. You will then give this learner 1 to 2 marks, and always give the learner the benefit of the doubt. The second descriptor, a limited number of resources were used, and a limited number and a variety but different resources were used. And what should actually be in here, they relate mostly to the product. So it will be 4 to 3 marks. In this one, the 6 to 5 block, 6 to 5 marks block, the required number of resources used. And remember, previously in this video, we said we would like the learners to use 3 sources. So if the learner used 3 sources, he meets this requirement. The required number are used. 3 are used. But they are all from the same source. Then you would give the learner 6 to 5 marks. Variety and number and quality of resources used. When it's applicable, you would say applicable resources used in a variety, from a variety of sources, and they all relate to the topic. And this one, comprehensive research was done. More evidence was given than required, and they all relate to the topic. So make sure you understand the descriptors yourself. The question arose from some of our other colleagues. What if the child only used the resources that the teacher had in the class as hard copies? if the child did not manage to give resources on his own, but he used the resources in the classroom, it's 100%. You will allocate marks based on how many resources were used. How did they relate to the actual topic? So what did the child use will be the focus, not whether he found the resources himself or you supplied the resources. As for the bibliography, the second criteria, no bibliography were given, 0. Here the bibliography were given, but not all of them relates to the topic. So this child had a list of sources that he used, but they do not all relate to the topic. Né? And the last one, references, resources are given, and they all relate to the topic and the final product. The last criteria there, evidence of organizational techniques, skills used. Here is the mind mapping. Remember, all the research information must be placed onto a mind map. It must be summarized within a mind map. From there, it can be placed into a planning and a draft. So the mind map is very, very, very important. There are beautiful online tools and online tools available for making a mind map online, but you can do it just as well with pen and paper. And look at the requirements. The organizational techniques used resulted in an elementary project at the end. Can you see why we say you can only determine whether the child meets these requirements at the end of the project? The organizational skills resulted in an average project. The organizational techniques and skills resulted in a good project. And the last one, but not the least, they resulted in an excellent project. So here, ladies and gentlemen, are the research rubric to be used. As for the writing, it's also very, very user-friendly. It speaks absolutely to this research project. Here you find your criteria. These are your descriptors, and you can see they are easy to use. Poor, elementary, average, good, and very good. Planning, and here we've got planning again. Planning and mind mapping, the same thing. The better the mind map, the better the planning at the end. No planning done, and look at what is part of the requirements here, the introduction and closing. So if the child did not plan and there are no introduction and closing, it's poor. Limited evidence of planning. He attempted to make a mind map, but it's 3 clouds drifting across the page. And ladies and gentlemen, that must stop. That's not mind mapping. And you, unfortunately, are in the front lines. You are the person that's going to have to stop it. Limited evidence of planning, attempted to an introduction and a closing. What do we mean by that? Maybe the introduction is part of paragraph 1 and the closing is part of the last paragraph. They are not separate. It's not a very clear introduction and a clear and good introduction and closing. So then you would give a mark 2 for elementary. Average planning, there is a mind map. There is an introduction and a closing, but it's not extraordinary. It's not very good. Good planning, closing, an introduction. Thorough planning, good introduction, body, and closing. Teach your learners. Introduction and a closing should be separate from the first and the last paragraph. Introduction says, introduce the topic, catch my attention, interest me in reading further. Closing is like a summary of your final conclusion that you reach, and they should be linked in some way. As to the format and structure, I'm not going to go too much into this, because they will differ with regard to the topic chosen or done. Since we have blogs, we have movie trailers, we have a vast variety of different topics. Therefore, the formats and the structures will be different. No or limited adherence, basic adherence, average, good, and excellent. What I can say about the format and structure is you as a teacher should know what the format and structure of a blog is, what the format and structure of a movie trailer is. For that purpose, you will find the PowerPoints in the Google Drive folder and the PowerPoint videos that we are going to share with you later. Very helpful. Adherence to the topic. 401. Handling of the topic shows no relevance and originality. So look at the two requirements now. It looks at relevance and originality. Was the child focused? Is it relevant? Did he use it in an original way? Handling of the topic shows limited relevance. A few of those inputs are relevant, but not all of them. And it's limited originality that will give a child a 2. Handling of the topic shows average relevant. Half or more is averagely relevant and originality. When the child stick to the questions asked, focused, it's good relevance and originality, and here you can allocate a 5 if the information given is very relevant and it is offered in a very original way. Creative end product, be careful of this criteria because it does not simply speak of creativity in general. It focuses on how language was used. No figurative language or imagination. Language use or imagination use. Poor language usage. Limited figurative language and imagination. Basic language. Average figurative language and fairly imaginative, average language usage. So tick off what requirements the child meets. A figurative language used and it's very imaginative, good language. And here you can find the one for the excellent. Language structures and conventions, the basic things we are used to, vocab, sentence structure, spelling and punctuation. It's again poor, basic, average, good and excellent. Proofreading, very good, good, average, elementary or no editing done at all. Advise your children to do good proofreading and editing. For that purpose, furnish them with checklists as we spoke about in the creative writing workshop. If you remember, if you think back, you can remember we had a checklist there as part of the creating writing workshop for grammar. Go and look at that and use that as well. Speaking, here is your oral presentation rubric and you can see it's also user friendly. Once again, the descriptors not achieved up to very good. The criteria. How did the learner introduce the topic and what was his research like? So it's the introduction and the research. Poor introduction, limited research. Unsatisfactory introduction, limited research. Average introduction, average research. Good intro, good research. Very good intro, very good research. Pronunciation and articulation, poor. No use of articulation, unsatisfactory pronunciation, limited use of articulation, etc., etc., etc. We look at body language as well. And once again, for the second time, how did the learner use his resources? Did he use it well or not? Limited up to very good resource usage. So ladies and gentlemen, this is your instructional manual. Contains your rubrics, instructions on what to do during the speaking part, a checklist example of for the writing stage. You are more than welcome to design a checklist for The research part, I strongly advise it because that will help the child to manage his time as well and to see what still needs to be done and what has been completed. Then a checklist, not a checklist, pardon me, instructions for the writing part, instructions for the research part, and please go and have a look at that PowerPoint presentation again, literacy skills doing research. And then, ladies and gentlemen, instructions on the project in general, how to choose the topic and the genre. Remember, these will change depending on how you manage it in your class. You will have to change it. So this is the literature project instruction page. It's in the Google folder. It's in Word. It will also be available in Afrikaans and in English. I would like to share with you the workbook as well. And I'm not able to. So I will do that in a separate little video. Please look out for videos. There will be videos on the workbook, on the topic page. There will be videos on each PowerPoint presentation that will be in your Google Drive folder. Up to now, I've mailed a link to the Google Drive folder to all your schools. If you have not received it, kindly contact me personally with your email address and I will mail you the link too. Remember to, when you get to the Google folder, to open it, to download it for yourself. Do not use it directly from the Google folder or make any alterations on the Google folder because then you will alter it for everybody else. Né? So download the information on your laptop or on your USB stick and use it as such. Let me see one more time if I can access this. Oh, there it is, literature project. I think you can still see it. Good. Let's quickly look at the literature project workbook. Ladies and gentlemen, this is available for Afrikaans and it is available for English. Okay. You will also change this. You do not have to use the workbook. Let me quickly scroll through it so that you can see what it looks like. I think there is not enough space for everything in here. So I strongly advise you to use a separate learner portfolio file. And what I think will really work the best is a plastic pocket file because the learner is going to gather a lot of information and he needs to place it in separate little divisions. So a plastic pocket file is going to work really, really well. What you can take from this learner workbook is what should be in your portfolio file or in your plastic portfolio file. The learner's name, there should be some kind of information, a name to the file, literature project or something. The learner name must be there, his surname, his grade, the genre, whether it's poetry, folklore, songs, whatever, and the topic. Topic 1, write it out. Topic 2, write it out. These is general instructions. Okay, once again, on the cover page is sufficient enough, but the learner must write down the genre and the topic that's been given to him. That's very important. Then there must be some space allocated where the learner can put his research material, together with information on how to conduct this research. Use different resources, write or paste the information in the blocks, make a mind map in which you summarize the information, could be written there, be creative. Okay, then in the PowerPoints that I've shared with you in session 2, and I'm going to share another one with you, you will find all the topics has a slide, and on all the slides you will find links. There is a link to writing blogs. There is a link to doing a quiz on Kahoots and Google Drive. There is a link to making movie trailers. All those links on those slides must be pasted inside this block. Resources to be used. So you as a teacher must make sure that the resources are pasted in this block, and leave some space open so that the learner can then write down his own resources and keep the bibliography updated. As soon as he takes something and starts to use it, he should put the link there, or he should write the name of the book there and keep his bibliography updated so that he does not come to the end of his research and now wonder, where did I find this again? So there should be some space where the learner can write down his bibliography. There should be some space where he can put in his mind map, his summaries, his notes. Okay, then there should be a space allocated to the writing part of the project. Okay, where he can put in his rough draft, his final product, his checklists for the grammar, all of that. There also should be a space where he can put in visual texts or pictures or illustrations. Then, ladies and gentlemen, there must also be some space for him to put in the preparation for his final oral presentation, and maybe cue cards and visual elements. In the learner assessment file, the learner must have access to his rubrics. Make sure that in advance he writes his name, genre and topic on each of these rubrics. Make sure you work through the rubrics with the learner so that the learner knows what will be given, what will earn him marks. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the workbook. Once again, you will not use it exactly like it is for this year because some things changed. You may use a template of this. You may use it to make index pages for your file that you choose to use. You may use a cardboard file. You may use an envelope. But remember, an envelope is going to require the child to organize the information, and it can get complicated. I truly think a plastic pocket file will work the best, and you provide the labels. This is for the research. This is for the writing. This is for the oral part. This is where you put your bibliography. Help your child to get organized using this learner workbook. Let me quickly see if I can get the read and dice page in here. All of this is available in English and in Afrikaans. Here is your grade 9 read and dice page. Remember, most of you will not do the project the way it was meant to be done. So you will maybe not use this. But your learners must have some kind of document which gives him the topics. If he threw, for example, number 1, he will do a blog. If he does number 2, he will do an infographic post on African poet. If he threw number 3, he would do a quiz on terminology, and he will use Kahoots, Google, or pen and paper. If he threw number 4, he will develop a time capsule about an infamous character. If he got number 5, he would do a movie trailer on his phone. And if he had 6, he would design a board game. So the learner must have some kind of document that shows him the topics as well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please look out for the presentations on the videos that will be in the Google Drive folders.